No
Okay,
comment.
it's 6 o'clock. We'll go ahead and open up the meeting with the pledge. And we'll wait for the recording to start. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have visitors tonight from the staff, and I want to say hi. It's nice to have people again. And you'll see a mixture of masks, no masks. If you're vaccinated, it's up to you. Of course, I know in the school it's mandatory, but. Okay. Let's do the approval of the agenda. That should be first. Anyone have any additions, deletions, or change to the agenda?
Just that this isn't pre-town meeting.
I know, we'll
Anymore.
change that.
Yeah.
It's actually going to be the 11th. Hearing none, can I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the agenda?
Any discussion?
You approve the agenda?
Thank you, Billy. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moves. Teacher, staff, community comments, questions, comments?
You can go to that, just right at that table, just so I can get you on camera, so.
I have a little letter to read.
Okay.
Let me just send you a copy too.
Thank you.
So, hello, I'm Maggie Frozo. I teach first grade. This is my 5th year at Rutland Town School, and I couldn't be happier. I love the community, the students, and I actually bought a house in Rutland Town just so my future kids can come to our school. The past 5 years, I've been saving as many sick days, personal days, whatever we want to call them, for a future maternity leave, and as you can see, the time is coming. But I've been scheduling doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, during school breaks, after school hours. And if you've ever had to reschedule a dentist appointment, you know that it's very difficult. Well, it's time for me to go on leave in January, and I have almost 60 days saved up. But unfortunately, due to our current contract, I'm only allowed to take 30 of them, requiring me to take unpaid days to take care of myself and the baby. And this is like a recent change, I believe. When we were hired, we understood, so that's 5 years ago now, you're not given free days for maternity leave like some employers do, but we thought, you can use your sick days towards leave. And even as recently as like 3 years ago, we have coworkers who have been able to use as many sick days as they wanted for their maternity leave. So we are wondering, why is this something that changed? Do we expect new parents to come back after 6 weeks? Financially, some people aren't able to do that rather. And babies don't even get their newborn shots, I don't think, fully vaccinated until 8 weeks. So are they going to daycare unprotected and mothers like not fully healed? So I feel like this is a problem with our current contract.
So the world average for maternity leave is 29 weeks, and we're not even permitted to use 12 weeks of our own sick days. These aren't extra days added on, but they're our own days that we would bank up. In other professions, mothers can take 6 weeks of disability pay and then use however many sick days after that they have accrued. It just doesn't make sense that people caring for children and educating children don't even get close to that to take care of their own children. Ultimately, if we really value students' academic, social, and emotional development, we need to go back to the beginning and support parents and babies from the start. One way we can do this is by allowing teachers to use our saved personal days for the leave that we're asking for, without a 30-day limit. We know this isn't something that can be changed at a school board meeting, but we wanted to bring awareness to this issue so that it can be discussed in future contract discussions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
I have to come up here. All right. I'm speaking as a public taxpayer. I have 3 questions. They're quick, I promise. One, Lynn, a couple school board meetings ago, you read a statement about public questions and comments only happening during this time. And so I'm just wondering, you guys are going to talk about the budget later, and so I don't think public can comment during that time when you guys have that discussion, and I'm just wondering when public can ask questions if you're discussing something in the meeting, for instance, the budget. Do we wait till the following meeting to ask that question, those questions, or?
Our next meeting is on the 10th, I believe.
Pre-town meeting, right?
No, pre-town is not, it says the 10th is pre-town, but it's not. Pre-town's going to actually be the 11th.
Okay.
It's the 10th, the night before.
Right. No,
Yeah, so it's the 11th.
no, that's town meeting.
Right, so our next board meeting is.
Is the 10th, I'm sorry, yes. So our meeting is the 10th.
Pre-town.
Pre-town is the 11th. What other questions do you have?
Okay, so quite a few years ago, when you guys presented the budget, they used like a pie chart to show like a third at that time, it was like a $7 million budget. A third of it went to high school tuition, another third went to maybe instruction,
Right.
salaries, whatever. And I'm just wondering if we could see that. I think it'd be really nice to see that.
When we finish the budget, you will.
Perfect.
Okay, can't do it before we know what it's
No,
going
no,
to
no, it's completely issue, but I just think it would be good for taxpayers to see
Oh,
that,
yeah.
so they can understand that, you know, we don't have any control over high school tuition, but
Right.
these are the areas that we do have control over.
Right.
Okay, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
And we'll play it by ear, see how it goes. You may not have any questions about the budget
Oh.
while we're discussing,
Okay,
okay?
thank you.
You're welcome. And typically what happens is it's not Rutland Town, but some school boards have had problems with visitors and attendees, and they kind of show up and take over the meeting. And typically, anytime you bring anything new to the board, like if I don't know what's happening or we don't know what's happening, we always say we'll answer it at the next meeting, okay? So instead of getting a riot going in the background, that's why that statement was read that night.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any others? Okay. We'll move on to a new business. Map overview.
Chris, do you want me to log in and project,
Sure.
or just pull it up on here?
Whichever is easiest.
Could I make a comment about this before you get started? I really like that you put this together.
Al is.
I really like that you put this together, but I'm really not interested in the SBAC information until we have the new results. So if we could skip that and maybe save that for when we do have that part and we just do the map,
That's fine.
I'd appreciate
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, I just think it would be a lot more informative
I'm
later.
fine. Yep.
It shortens the presentation a good deal.
Yeah, yeah, it sounds like sweet, so, yeah.
Get your home earlier for dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'll just skip ahead of my notes here.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
So while we're getting to the right slide there, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Albert Gregorich. I was just hired recently to be the district data manager for GRCSU. This is my first year in the position. It's a new position for the district. So thank you for inviting me here to share some data.
Thanks for coming.
Can everybody hear me okay? All right, thanks. So before we get going, I had planned on showing the SBAC data. It's a longer historical picture. The map data itself, we've been doing since the 2019-2020 school year. So we have just about 2 years worth of data to show. It was interrupted in our first year by the COVID shutdown. And then last year's data, of course, was affected by everybody getting used to the blended learning model and all of that. And then we have one term completed for this year. So that's what we're going to show you tonight. Skip through the SBAC slides. So what we're about to show, there's 3 charts. Reading, language usage, and mathematics. And what's important to note about this particular kind of data is I'm showing you an average of percentile, student percentile achievement. That's different from how SBAC presents a percent of students who are proficient or above, because that is it's a number out of 100, whereas percentile is a rank. And I think most of us, if we've had kids, you understand, you take your baby to the doctor, they say their weight is in the 90th percentile. So that baby weighs more than 90% of all other babies that have been born. That's the kind of data I'm about to present. So first off, for our reading test, you have the terms along the bottom starting in the fall of 1920 and ending in the fall of 21-22. The 50th percentile is the national average score that a student would achieve for their grade level. So for Rutland Town School in the fall of 1920, we were at 54th percentile, and steadily across the board, we've been above the 50th percentile. So in reading, Rutland Town School has consistently performed above the national average compared to their peers nationally. For language usage, it's a very similar story. We're maybe a little closer to the national average down there, but still consistently above average. And again, for mathematics, consistently above average. Even, here's last year's scores. So this was the entire COVID-affected period. And we're consistently even, which is a good place to be, especially when you're above average like that. So that's really the story overall for Rutland Town.
And is this kindergarten through 8th grade?
This is kindergarten through 8th grade, all averaged together, yes. So this is a very high-level view of the data. You can take a much deeper view, which we have done with our administrators. They've seen a good deal of this data right down to what we can't share publicly.
Questions?
Are there any questions?
I guess my one question is this, are we happy with this? Is this where we want to be? Do we want to try to go higher? Do we have goal setting? I guess that's what I'm just curious. I know we're above average, but not by a lot, right? So I'm just curious, what our plan is.
Yeah, and we always want to do better. We're very competitive. So our teachers worked within their PLC group that time they were dismissed, and we just recently had our interventionists help with a protocol to really disaggregate the data and look at student data. But again, this is one snapshot of a kid. So this is test over a certain number of days. So this isn't everything we look at. One of the things that I was trying to see if Al could do, but he wasn't able to finagle the numbers, is to look at student growth. Because what we want to really do is look at how far our students can grow. Because every year that bar climbs. But, we've seen some really good student growth, and we definitely still have some work to do. But especially middle school, our kids will set goals for what their MAP data looks like. I think the past 2 years, our kids have really been vested into taking their time. We've talked a lot about the importance of these, that this will, if you need more enrichment, if you need intervention, but we want to have the best picture of this kid on this given time. But as we all know, similar to any test on any given day, you could have a fight with a sibling, didn't have a good breakfast, rough bus ride. It could be a number of things. But we always strive to improve for every one of our kids. But I've been very impressed the past couple of years. I'm very proud I would say I'm extremely proud, especially looking nationally, talking with even friends at other states, just what we have from a technology standpoint, the high quality teachers that we have, and I really think that this is also because we were able to be in person last year.
I'm really happy that there hasn't been any slump.
Right.
We've had great teachers, so thank you.
Great teachers, yes.
I expected to see a slump also, so it's wonderful. Something's working, because we know remote didn't, but something got through.
Yeah.
So how does the maps relate to the SBAC? I think, and we may not be able to answer that today, but I'm curious for next time, just to kind of show them side by side and.
The reason that I put the two tests in the presentation was it just goes to show the consistency. When you look at the SBAC scores, yeah, there's some variance in the data, but especially with ELA, it shows a very level performance going back to 2016.
Mm-hmm.
So that, it brings you back to 2016. And then when we come up and look at those years that are affected by COVID, and we see that with MAP, we don't have that slump. It's just a good story to show.
Mm-hmm.
They are two very different tests,
Mhm.
and they do measure things differently. And when I come back to talk about that at a later date, we'll go more into that.
That sounds great. Thank you very much.
I think too with the SBAC, one of the things that we've learned, Lisa actually helped us with this last year, is to do some interim tests. The southern schools have done that, so that's on our assessment calendar now as a district that we're doing those practice tests. So some teachers have already started that, but it's expectation that everybody will do that in January.
I was wondering, is that what you mentioned in your report?
Yeah, it's just difficult. Even the screen is difficult to navigate. Just a lot of it's just different, like Al said. So just to have more practice with that. And we don't get the results of that. That's like the tough thing, is that they said when the SBAC came out that you'll get these instantly. Parents will have these. And Al, I think you told me that, that was never really true because the date closes in June or something. So I had teachers this summer that were like, hey, did you get the SBAC scores yet? And Al immediately was able to share those. They weren't public yet, and the state hasn't published those as well either. But it's just tough because we had those kids, teachers were like, I had those kids last year and I'm just getting that in August. So it would just be helpful if we could have those results a little faster.
Yeah. And that is one of the things that I am working towards, is to help them get the results faster. But I really can't get them before the date of the testing window, which is June.
Okay. Thank you.
Just a comment of in the language one, fall of 1920 and then fall of 21-22. To see the growth with the chaos that has gone on is directly contributed to the staff. I mean, to keep the numbers up and everything. Thank you.
Billy or Russ, do you have any questions?
No, I would just echo Jeff's sentiments, like given the climate of education lately, like just the fact that there's growth is absolutely amazing. Can't say thank you to all of our teachers and staff enough.
True.
Well said, Billy.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity. I look
Thank you.
forward
Sorry
to
we
being
cut
back.
you, sorry we cut you short, but.
No, that's okay. I understand.
Thank you.
Thank you, Al.
Thanks, Al.
Okay, now I did notice that Kelly Trey is on. Sarah, the next topic is the second floor.
Yes.
I didn't see anything in the packet, so.
No, we just got something today from Kelly that we also shared with Lewis. Kelly, Lewis, do you want to talk a little bit about the elevator and then the strapping for upstairs?
Kelly, did you want to talk about it first and then I can add to it?
Sure. We finally got the quote back from Tyson Crook on Friday, and the numbers were a little higher than what they were in the last bid. It was $96,000, and that was just for the elevator. And then you've got all the masonry, the carpentry, the demolition, everything like that. So the total would be anywhere from, with the contingency, we don't know what construction's gonna be because we would have to put that out to bid, but it would be anywhere probably from 180,000 to 200. I think it's gonna end up right about in there.
Kelly, just to clarify, you're referring to just the construction of the elevator and the elevator shaft.
Correct, yeah.
Not the construction of the second floor, just the elevator piece.
Yeah, that's just the elevator piece. And then they also gave, last year we quoted out to do the strapping of the ceiling and insulation was also in there, which I think is probably a vital piece so we can get that back. That actually I think should take priority.
Kelly, do you have that number?
Or the upstairs, the strapping and insulation?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just under
grand.
10,000 to do it all.
Just under 10 grand, okay.
Kelly, is that putting something over the strapping, or is that just, then you would still need to put a drop ceiling or something in over that?
Yeah, that's just putting the insulation back, fixing the plastic that's up there that has holes, and then just putting strapping 16 on center.
The insulation's falling through upstairs, everywhere.
Okay. Any questions on that? That's what we asked him
Well,
to
the-
look
just the-
into.
Just the elevator shaft is already there.
Yeah, I can
When
find
we
that.
did that addition, the elevator shaft is there, that's what in the mechanical room, that's where was art storage. So the elevator shaft's already there for the elevator.
Yeah, we'll save money on the elevator. And that'll have to be done with the masonry. Well, it's not high enough upstairs, so they're gonna have to make the elevator.
Kelly,
Kelly, we can't hear you.
yeah, it's
Sorry.
going in and out.
Oh, sorry, I'm in the office. It's on the bottom, and then upstairs.
Now, you're still breaking up, Kelly.
He's at school.
Yes.
So I have the bid that he forwarded to me that I can forward if anybody wants to look at it. We just got it today. And it lists.
So what I think Kelly's trying to say is that, I mean, even though the shaft is there, there's still a lot of work that's involved. I mean, upstairs, it's just, if you go upstairs, there's just a hole in the ground. So you would still have to build the room for the elevator to come into. And I think he was trying to say that the room up there is not quite big enough, but I don't want to put words in his mouth. I don't know, hopefully he can get back on. But I think the end point is there's work that's involved. And I know even when you look at any elevator project, the price that they're giving you does not involve any of the electricity or the construction to it. Just for example, I know Proctor had some renovations done on their elevator last year, and their elevator quote did not include any of that, any of the inspections, the electricity piece, construction. And so we had to go out to bid for a different price for all of that additional work. And so I think based on what Kelly's saying is just for the elevator piece, we'd probably be looking upward of $180,000 to $200,000 to have a working elevator finished product. I know last time we talked about doing this project in stages over a course of a number of years, just because the total price tag is going to be, at this time, we think more than we want to ask the taxpayers to pay for all in 1 year. So we talked about doing the elevator so that we can start to get people up, get workers up there to be able to, maybe the next stage would be to work on the construction or the electricity, the plumbing, and then the final piece would be to do a finished product. So if we did it over a course of 3 to 5 years, we'd be looking at putting money into a capital, either putting items on the ballot for each piece and asking the taxpayers to approve each piece, or asking the taxpayers to put money into a capital maintenance fund over the course of 3, 5, 10 years, whatever the board decides, and then using that capital maintenance fund. And it could be just a general capital maintenance fund, or it could be specific to the elevator or the second floor project. And then the board would have the discretion to use that money for the projects in stages, and we can properly have enough time to go out to bid and solicit competitive quotes to work on this project over time.
Okay, thank you.
Well said.
Any more questions?
I don't have any questions about it, I
Okay.
guess.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Town meeting, pre-town meeting, unfortunately, it's got to be coinciding, of course, with the select board meeting. They're pre-town, so a date has to be from both sides of the town picked. We've been running the gamut, and after taking the pre-town meeting has to be at least 6 weeks before town meeting.
Pre-town. No, say it again.
Pre-town meeting has to be at least 6 weeks before town meeting.
Okay,
Okay, which is the night before the actual votes take place.
okay.
So, the two dates that were thrown out were either the 11th or I believe the 24th. And the select board can't do it on the 24th, so that leaves us the 11th. The select board does not meet until next week, so we still don't have a definite on them. I'm sorry, it had to be either the 11th or the 18th. And the 18th we can't because that's
We
our
already have
portrait meeting. And can't reschedule that. So I let the select board or their administrator know that we'd have to go with the 11th for pre-town. We do have a meeting on the 10th. So if we needed additional time for the budget, at least we have it. Not that it gives us a lot of time, but right now with the pre-town, just so you know, Louis, is going to be on the 11th. And I'm putting the pressure on the select board. I mean, there's a lot of towns that we're working with for dates, so, and they only have themselves, so hopefully they'll agree.
Lynette, is that gonna be, didn't we go first last year?
We will be on second. It
So
starts at 6.
Okay,
So the select board would be on first,
okay.
and then we would follow up when they're done with their presentation.
Is that gonna be in person or remote this year?
It has to be in person. I think there can be a remote coupling with it.
It has to be?
Right,
Yes, open meeting law.
Wow. But last year it wasn't.
right.
Correct.
We gotta, yeah. And it could change, you know how the state is, but right
Oh,
now,
but that's why
yes.
the state deems it has to be.
Right.
Interesting.
So it does have to be, like tonight, we could be remote, but we choose to do both.
You could do both.
The hybrid.
Gotcha.
And that's the way pre-town meeting will be.
So would it be at the school?
Yes.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, it would have to be.
okay. So will you just you'll let us know when it's official?
Well,
It's official?
as far as I think the school board, it has to be because we can't do any other dates.
Okay.
So I have a few questions.
Yes, sir.
So like the 6-week time frame, is that just Rutland Town's policy? Because pre-town meetings are required, so that's not a state rule.
That would have to be a question answered by the town clerk.
Okay.
That was
And
her,
so
that
Rutland
came
Town's
down from
meeting is
her.
scheduled for the 10th.
Our meeting is, yep.
So are we meeting on the 10th and the 11th?
Did you say you wanted to?
Well,
Chris
well,
likes to
want
meet as much
I-
as possible.
I would like to consolidate meetings if possible.
I know.
to be honest.
Well, we would consolidate them, but I think, who has the meeting on the 11th?
Ira has a meeting at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
That could be relatively, we'd be done by 6.
Okay, well, we'll discuss that. It's up to the board. I mean, I'd just as soon just have one meeting and because the select board goes first, we can meet at 6 and we'll already be at the school to go down when they're done. So we could not meet on the 10th.
So just just thinking out loud here, so why wouldn't we just do the meeting on the town meeting on the 10th, if that's when our regular meeting is?
Because we usually coincide with the select board.
It's
the way it's always
exactly.
been.
The two dates that came from the select board were the 11th or 18th. So, trying to play nice in the sandbox. So we could change later,
Well, we
after
can
we.
offer them the 10th or the 11th and see what happens.
Selfishly, the 11th would be best, because I don't have to worry about the 10th. I already have meetings on the 11th, but that's
Yeah.
selfishly.
Okay.
Oh, then let's.
Then we'll stay with the 11th, and, yeah, we'll, later on, it has to be by motion of the board, but we can change our regular meeting to the 11th instead of the 10th at 6.
Lynn, that means that people that go to the select board won't be able to come to the school board meeting on that day.
Why?
Like, I'll be at the select board pre-town meeting to listen to their budget, to ask questions, and I
Mhm.
wouldn't be able to go to the school board, and I don't know if there's other people. I'm just putting that.
But that's the way it has been.
Why would?
Wait, but we go after the select board.
She's talking about our meeting. So we're having our meeting starting at 6.
Oh.
Select board are down there at
Oh,
pre-town at
yeah.
6.
We usually
So,
don't do a lot.
And that usually, usually the meeting before
Budget,
Brown T,
really.
right, we do very little. Number one, because we don't know how long they're gonna take.
That's true.
I tried to talk them into letting us go first because we're always quicker, but it didn't work. So,
Perfect.
Well, Chris and I wouldn't be able to get there by 6 if we have an IRA meeting, so.
well, I know that now, but I didn't know that before. So.
They'll be at least an hour.
I don't know, I think they were a little quicker than that last time, but, and because I stayed for it, so I was surprised. But anyways, yeah, so plan on the 11th, and you'll probably hear the explosion if they try to change it, so. And you can, well, I don't think distancing.
Right now, Kelly.
I don't think distancing is gonna be it, but we're gonna have, it will be mandatory masks, of course.
No different than an athletic event.
Right.
What's that, Chris?
No different than an athletic event.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay. So that's it for town meeting, pre-town. Is there something specific about town meeting?
No, it was
Okay.
just that.
Okay. Moving on to finance. Louis?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So the budget was included in the packet. We've got some bunch of good news for you tonight. So last meeting, we were looking at the first draft of the budget, and we were looking at some substantial increases in the budget, mainly due to secondary tuition. And at the time, secondary tuition was just an estimate. We didn't have final numbers out. What we do at the beginning of the year is we put feelers out to all the schools that we send our kids to and ask for rosters. And so we were using that information for our estimates, but we don't consider that information final until we actually start to see invoices, because a lot changes at the very beginning of the school year. So just to refresh everybody's memory, last month we were looking at total expense being up about $641,000, which was 7.45%. And total education spending was up by $499,000, which was 5.96%. The second draft, which is in the packet, there was 4 main changes, which I'll go through those. But before I go through those, the first thing we're looking at, so total expense, which is on page 6, is at $377,000, 4.38%. So almost a 3% decrease since the last draft. And then education spending is up $250,000, which is 2.99%. So a decrease of 3% there too. Almost $250,000 decrease. So the main reasons for the decrease. So we updated tuition numbers. That resulted in a decrease of 11 students. Not that those students have moved out, but it was just an updating of our earlier estimate, which was a very large increase. That increase was a lot more than it needed to be based on actual invoices that we received. So that resulted in a $167,000 decrease in the budget. I feel these numbers are pretty stable at this time. The only thing that's really still an estimate is the tuition amounts. At this time, we have not received those yet. The deadline for that is January 15th for schools to set their announced tuition. The other piece that can change is families moving in and out of town, which that could change from year to year depending on the situations. The other item, that's item number 2, and these are all listed on summary of changes on page 1.
Louis, if I could stop you just for a sec, because we don't know the new tuition rates for next year, did we bump this number up at all, or did we use last year's?
Yeah, I'm estimating a 3% increase.
Okay, just to know what was included. Okay, thank you.
The second item is we removed the extra teacher that that was identified in the first draft. There was a long-term sub that was there that's there this year that won't be there next year. So that reduced the budget by $70,000. And that was just a temporary position, just to clarify. So it's not a RIF, it was a temporary position. And then the next item, so I met with the principal, so I met with Sarah and I met with Kelly Treya, and we went over the budget in detail to see if there was other items in the budget that could be cut. That was based on the feedback from the board at the last meeting. The administration proposed $59,000 in additional cuts, and I've outlined some of the areas that has come from. There was a $1,000 reduction in preschool subs, which was not being used. In none of these areas did we feel it brought the budget below what we needed in those areas. There was $30,000 cut in instruction, and if there's any questions, we can go over the specifics of those. $3,450 in guidance, $4,290 in library, $2,050 in technology, $500 in the principal's office, $500 in athletics, and $17,175 in plan operations. I will say some of the cuts were places where we had increased the budget in the first draft based on school request, and just based on the budget being up, we rolled back those increases, as well as in some areas we did further cuts. And then the last item is the vocational. It's updated, but it's not final yet. So it's updated with the new staffer tuition rate and an estimate of the 6 semester rolling averages, but they are not the final 6 semester rolling averages at this time. We're still waiting for that information from the state. So I'll take any questions first, and then we'll go into the tax rate discussion.
Does anybody have any questions on the second draft changes of what's been cut, or on the budget, general budget itself, that Louis might be able to explain? Billy, Rush, you're all set?
I was just, and you may not be able to go into detail about this right now, but the 30,000 being cut from instruction, I just wondered if there's any specifics on that.
Yes, I can provide some of those specifics. So 8,000 was cut from other wages. There's a category under instruction called consider other wages, and it's used to pay for things such as mentoring, the current PLC leaders, summer school, homework club, and we did calculations and determined that there was enough in that line to cover everything that we're currently doing, and still enough to be able to cut $8,000. And then the other categories that were cut, there was 5,000 that came from supplies. There was 3,000 that came from books. There was 1,000 that came from dues and fees. 500 that came from travel. And there was 12,000, approximately 12,000 that came from furniture, which was an increase to begin with. So we had,
The original
there
draft
was a
one.
number of furniture items that were put in, that were requested, that were in addition to the budget
Right.
of about 22,000. We removed 12,000.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Louis on this part of the budget process?
I had a question on the grounds and maintenance that was cut in half from original estimate from the first draft. Is there a reason?
So all of the cuts were made in order to be as fiscally responsible as possible, based on the amount the budget was up, and the board's request at the last meeting. Granted, that request was made when we thought the budget was up a lot higher, but the administration had done the work to review the budget and come up with these cuts. So we felt it was our responsibility to present them to the board. So it would be up to the board to decide whether you want to put them back or not. So that's the reason why all of these cuts were made.
Right.
As far as plant operations, what makes up the $17,000 is there was 2,000 in maintenance subs that was taken out, and these are professional service subs that we would contract out. There's no one that we've been able to find that provides maintenance subs in our area. So that line has not been utilized in the last few years. We had increased the repairs and maintenance line by approximately $7,000 in the first draft. We brought that back down to level funded. We took approximately $5,400 out of grounds maintenance, and that's because last year we purchased a tractor and we have a lease so that the lawn care can be done in-house. So Kelly and I discussed that, and we felt we could cut that budget by $5,500, which was the cost of the annual lease. So we have two lines now. We have the annual lease, which is the $5,500, and the grounds maintenance, which is $7,700. So the net is still what we had budgeted the previous year. And then supplies, we cut. We had initially raised supplies by $10,000. We had brought that down by $5,000, so it's only an increase of $5,000.
And why did the health insurance go up so much? Because I noticed in the
Probably
other
different
places it
plan.
went down.
Someone got a new plan.
Health insurance, it's based on the employees, and so if you have one employee who's gone buyback and that employee leaves, and now you have a person on family insurance, you can see a swing of $25,000.
Thank you.
So it's based on the employees that are in those positions at this time, or if there's open positions, then an estimate of open cost for an open position, plus the increase of 5.2%.
And I noticed that the Kelly services went down, but not all the way. So is that
Which category?
in preschool? You said, is that just because it's been hard to get preschool subs, or?
What page are you on?
Sorry, it's on page 2.
So preschool requires, in order to work in preschool, you have to have specific requirements for PD and fingerprinting. So we can't typically take Kelly subs for preschool subs unless they have all of those certifications. So I believe what happens in most schools, if they need to replace somebody in preschool, they'll pull somebody else from the building that has those required qualifications, and they'll just get a sub for that other person somewhere else in the building.
Thank you.
You didn't find any more big mistakes?
I didn't find mistakes.
I'm disappointed. Any more questions for Louis on this part of the budget? Okay, Louis, go ahead.
Okay, so moving on to the tax rate calculation. There was a sheet at the end of the budget. Does everybody have that in front of them?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the sheet that we'll look at when we determine the tax rate. There's a number of steps in the calculation process. At this time, we're still waiting on a few pieces of information. Those pieces I have identified by, they're in bold, and they also have an asterisk next to the description, and they're in red, depending on if you have a colored copy or not. So looking at scenario 1 to start. So total expense, we talked about, is up by 4.38%. Education's up by 2.99%. Equalized pupils, that would be a calculation that we're given by the state. It's due out December 15th. The last few years it has not made that deadline, so we're really not sure when we'll get that number. So for the purposes of this calculation, I've left that number flat. Equalized pupils is a count of, it's a 2-year average of ADM, and it takes into account weighting based on the level of instruction. So elementary students are weighted differently than secondary students. Ed spending per equalized pupil, we get that by taking our education spending divided by our equalized pupils. So currently, based on the estimate of equalized pupils, we're looking at spending per pupil of $17,196, a 2.99% increase. Property, this is the amount that's set by the legislators. If anybody has seen the tax commissioner's letter that came out last week, it had some positive news in it, but it's also, I think, a little bit of it had some, we received some cautious news that went along with it from the state. So because of estimates that were incorrect at the state, they are now sitting on a $90 million surplus in the ed fund. And based on that $90 million surplus, they're estimating that the property yield will increase to $13,846, which is a 22% increase in the yield.
Mm-hmm.
Increase in the yield decreases local tax rate. So on the surface, that's great news. We were told by our finance people at the state, they don't believe the legislators will use that full $90 million surplus to reduce the taxes and increase the yield.
What did they tell you? Are they, in the past, and I won't go deeply into this, but out of 90,000, we'd maybe see 45 million of it, and the other 45 million they throw into general. Is that something they're going to do? Do you know, or what did they say?
I don't think we know at this point because the legislators haven't started to meet. I'm sure with that amount of money that everyone's going to start brainstorming on how they want to spend it. And it's not going to all go towards lowering taxes.
Unfortunately, though, I don't know if there's something that we can do at all. But then
No, so I'm just giving you the information because I'm sure you'll hear this information in the papers or on the news.
Right, but
So
that
the
90 million, if it was raised out of educational funds, which we get hit over the head all the time because education is so high, that money that was raised through education should come back into the education to lower it. Because if they take a part of it and they give it to us, but they take the other part and put it into the general fund, our taxpayers aren't really getting the money back. We still look artificially high because they're taking our money and giving it to somewhere else. I mean, I know they do this all the time in the state with the highway budget. If they've got a surplus, they just put it somewhere else instead of offsetting. That's pretty much why our roads are in such crap condition. But I'm really kind of tired of hearing the taxpayers screaming about how high the educational costs are. When we have a $90 million surplus, it should come back into the educational funds so that taxpayers can see some relief. And I know you've got nothing to do with this, Louis. So I'm just kind of mouthing off for a minute because that really does irk me.
So the recommendation we've been given by the finance department at the state is to use a yield of $12,937, which is still an increase of 14.31%. If we use that yield, so in scenario one, I'm using that yield, and using that yield, we get an equalized tax rate of $1.32, which is a decrease of 9.9%. The next piece of the calculation is the CLA. We should have the CLA in a few days, but at this time, we're still using the current estimate.
How did you come up with 90% instead of the 100 we had last year?
Are you on scenario 3?
I'm sorry, no.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, I am. I apologize.
I'm wondering the same.
I'm sorry, I jumped. Go ahead,
Okay.
Liz.
Yeah, so staying on scenario 1, using a flat CLA, we would end with a tax rate of $1.32, which is a 9.91% decrease. So, looking at the other two scenarios, I've just given
Used to be
you
like that at school,
how
too.
changing those numbers could change the tax rate. So one of the other things we've been told by the state is one of the reasons why we have such a large surplus is because of the increase in the grand list because of rising home prices. And if you've tried to sell your house in the last year or two, you know that houses are going for a lot more than what they're assessed at. And so as market value, is there an echo coming through on your side?
No, you sound great.
Okay. So as market value increases over assessed value, it drives down our CLA. And so the thing that we don't know at this time, but we'll find out very shortly, is how our CLA has been affected. As our CLA decreases, it can have a significant impact on local tax rates.
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at scenario 2. I've kept everything constant until the yield calculation.
Mm-hmm.
If the yield use the full $90 million surplus for the yield, and CLA is still flat over last year, we'd be looking at a 15.82% decrease in the tax rate.
Can we get furniture for the library?
In scenario 3, I put the yield at the recommended yield, and I just estimated a significant drop in the CLA to 90%. And based on that, we'd be looking at pretty much a flat tax rate of $1.47.
So that's worst case scenario.
Well, I mean, I don't know that it's worst case scenario. I mean, we could see CLAs drops a lot more. They could drop to 80%. We don't really know that. We won't have that information till later this week.
Okay.
When do you get that again, Louis?
Within a couple
It's due out on December 15th, so we should get it sometime this week.
If they drop it off at my office, I'll call you.
Me too.
Okay.
I want to know.
And for those of you that aren't familiar with the CLA, it's the common level of appraisal. And it's based on home sales in the last 3 years. It takes the average. It looks at what houses have sold for compared to the assessed value. And it also throws out one-time anomalies. It looks at all of the data and determines whether they were sales that should be included in the calculation.
Does anyone have any questions for Louis on our tax rate calculation?
Louis, what do you think is the more likely scenario? If you had a bet.
I believe our property yield is going to be around the 12,937. I think that's probably the more accurate number. I think equalized pupils will be probably around 500, which is just a small decrease, and I don't anticipate it being anything more than that. The CLA, I wouldn't even begin to estimate what that's gonna be.
So there's still a lot we don't actually know today.
We won't know that when we
Yeah.
go out for the budget even.
Yeah.
I think the things that are outstanding are the things that'll have the most impact on your budget, so no hard decisions to be made tonight.
But if I'm not mistaken, even the last 2 years, when we have done the budget and we've actually voted on the budget, before we found out the answers to some of these. Not the CLA, but the yield and,
Yeah, and I think if, once we have the CLA, I feel more comfortable, that's really the thing that I'm worried about the most.
okay.
And that's kind of why I'm wondering if we should get together on the 10th and just finalize what our game plan is.
Well, we can do that on the 11th. We just have to print out the warning different if we change it. And we still can change. I know that Louis is going to roll his eyes, but we still can change our proposed budget on the 11th when we meet before the meeting. And if we need to.
Because we have some items to consider
Right.
down there too.
And I also think we need to decide if we want to move forward with the elevator as well, if we want to put that on the ballot too. When do we decide that?
Tonight or
Tonight?
on the
Well,
11th?
I think the other thing is that Kelly asked that we get the strapping and all the insulation done.
Well, that's $10,000.
That's $10,000.
That's
We can
minimum.
find that.
Yeah.
Okay, school board members, let's discuss the elevator. So you're talking, if we were to complete the elevator shaft and what needs to be done, you're talking $180,000 to $200,000. That's large enough so it would be a separate article from our budget. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm wondering if we've looked into any grants at all, like, after Tropical Storm Irene, I believe the school is, emergency shelter, and I didn't know if we would be available for any grants to create more space in the school.
That's an excellent question. However, we're not going to get the answer to that before we have to finalize the budget.
And if we're just doing a piece of it tonight, we could still look into the grants for the rest of the project. Right?
Could we break it up that way, Louis? I'm thinking we could get a grant for the elevator, not for the masonry and all the construction.
Even if the board approves it, we can still look into grants and to offset part of the cost.
So, can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
So, Louis, you gave a couple scenarios of what you would recommend. If that were the case, can you just repeat those? Because one of them, would it be like voting on a separate line item? Like just for, because we did that before for the security.
Right, and that's what I said, it would be a separate article.
Separate article, pardon me.
Right.
Separate article.
If the board felt it was important to move forward with this project, I mean, I think there's two big options. One would be to ask the taxpayers to put money into a capital maintenance fund for the purpose of finishing the second floor. Or it could be more specific for them to approve you going out to bond for, to install an elevator or to put in an elevator, whatever you want to call it. If you do the capital maintenance fund route, unless there's enough put into that fund to fund the elevator, you're gonna have to wait until unless you put enough in there in the first year, you're gonna have to wait until there's enough in that fund in order to move forward. Where if you go with the bond route, then you'd be asking the taxpayers for enough money to do the whole elevator project all at once.
I would think that's what you're thinking anyways, would be the 200, the 180 to 200. I don't know, it's, what do you guys think?
I feel like it's a much smaller piece to bite off as a taxpayer than looking at the whole thing. and I think it's concrete. It's easy to tell what it's for. An elevator, it opens up possibilities for the school. I think looking into grants is a great idea, Billy. I had started looking at grants for the elevator last year, and I didn't really know where to look. So I don't know if anyone could help point us in that direction.
Okay, let me go around. Jeff, what's your idea? The elevator would be 100, and then the project would be probably 200,000.
I think we need to get this process going. We've been sitting on this space for years,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, there's never a good time to ask for extra dollars, but again, it doesn't hurt to ask. I think we should ask for the 200,000, bond it out, and get this process started so that this space can be a usable space. I was on that committee that did the research on this space and everything, and we've been sitting on it for,
Well, I know, we have
Long
been
time.
out to vote twice on it, and both times it got slammed badly. So it's not like we haven't tried. I
Right,
understand.
but this is gonna be
understand.
for us, it's for our future, it's for the future of the facility,
Okay,
and
okay.
so that's my thought.
Billy?
I would like to pursue this. I'd like to put it out to voters for the bond and then pursue grants to take away from that cost.
All right, excellent. Russ?
Yeah, I think I agree with Jeff and Billy. Well, there's some static there. One quick question I had was, it seems that this project has increased by maybe 30% over the last number of years, just based on costs. I think I remember it being like 150 all in, and now it's closer to 200. So I think if I'm correct there, the longer we kick the can, potentially the greater the costs continue to increase.
Well, I was surprised actually, Russ, that the elevator still is at 96. And I believe even the original one had it at 100,000, so, I was pleased to see that part of it. But, yeah, I mean, if you look at the cost, and that's if you can find somebody to put it in even, so, that would be probably a major delay, finding workers that can do this. But, okay, but otherwise you're okay with it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think at this point, finding a contractor and prices are not gonna be favorable. I mean, at this point, the construction world, everyone is so busy, and people are charging pretty ridiculous rates on stuff, but it sounds like this is pretty in line. So, yeah, I would say let's give it a shot. Worst that can happen is they say no and pick a different route.
Okay. So I need a motion for a second article on the warning.
Yes, sir.
Should we use 200,000 as a placeholder to put on the article?
What about 199?
$1.
I'm sorry, what was that again? If you could repeat yourself.
I asked if we should just use an even 200,000 as a placeholder for the ballot item.
I would think so.
I'm saying
To be
199.
financed over 10 years, so you'd be looking at about 20,000 a year plus interest.
Okay.
I'll make the motion for a second article of 200,000 for the construction of the second floor elevator.
Okay. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Sure you want it 200 and not 199?
I like 199.
I don't think anybody's gonna fall for that, Tina, but it's a good try. It's a
I
good
don't know.
try. You look like a supermarket now. Everything is 99 or 98. Okay, anything else you wanted to bring up? Louis, the next would be what, tuition rates or?
Can I just ask a question in regards to budget?
I do have a few other just quick things to note.
Just 1 second, Louis. What?
So one of the things, just the insulation is falling upstairs, so we did not include $10,000 to fix that.
Okay, well, we're not done with the budget yet,
Okay, make note.
One thing at a time.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Louis.
So just a few items I just wanted to note. So the budget that you have in front of you, the second draft, does include the athletic transportation of $9,000. It
Okay.
is listed on the items to consider. So I just wanted to point that out because that is a new item.
Yep.
And I think the board is interested in still keeping that in the budget, but I just wanted to verify that.
Yep. Anyone have a problem or want to take it out of the budget? Billy? Russ? Lose him? Russ, did you want to take the 9,000 out for the athletic transportation, the bus for the games?
No, I'd leave it in.
Okay. Jeff?
Okay. The second item that I just wanted to point out.
Wait a minute, Louis, I've got to get a consensus here.
I just, I want to keep it in there, but didn't we already put 5 in, so it'd be an increase of 4, wouldn't it?
No. It's already in, the total 9,000 is in there.
Okay,
Where it came from, I don't know, but it's in there to
all
cover
right,
it.
okay, all right.
Okay, Tina?
Sorry, my daughter is having an issue.
That's okay. You want to leave the 9 in?
I do.
Okay, so we're going to leave the 9 in, Louis. Go ahead with the next.
Okay, thank you. The second item, it's listed on page 6, was we had added $9,000 for the second lunches. And I just want to have the discussion on what the board's intention on that is for next year. If we move back to a normal lunch program where students are paying for their lunch, what is the board's intention there? Is that we would offer free second lunches still for everybody? And is that still something you wish to keep in there?
My thought is it'd be nice to leave it for free. I mean, we're not going to let any kid go hungry, period. But if we left the 9,000 in there, we'd have to, of course, it's up to the administrators how they want to handle this, but I also know we're having trouble if we go back to paying for lunches. We have a minority of parents who never pay, and we end up in the red. And we have to come up with it at the last minute. So I would like to leave it in there and just say for the lunch program, and then decide in the future how that's to be used, if we're giving free or if we're waiting to see how it goes. What do you think?
I think that makes sense. But I was curious, I didn't notice any numbers on your report this month.
Yeah, I got it after the board report was finalized, and I would like to just share, I am concerned about the number of how much kids are eating.
Okay.
Because when they were getting free food, some of the little kids, they're just getting like a chicken patty and french fries. And it used to be they could go get unlimited fruits and vegetables, and now that the salad bar is back out there. So I am watching some kids that are eating their home lunch. And for example, I had a kid that ate 2 Lunchables today, and then that little kid went and got 2 lunches and did not eat any fruit or vegetable, which is their choice. They had to take it. And I'm just getting a little nervous that it's getting a little bit out of hand and that we may have some unhealthy kids.
So I'm curious, from what I hear from my kids, a lot of the fruit gets thrown out.
Yes.
So maybe a requirement would be that they need to eat whichever fruit or vegetable they choose to take before they can get a second lunch.
It's just hard to monitor because there's only a couple adults in a room of over 100 kids. So it's tough to monitor. I mean, even I know I've been played a few times because I've said that you need to eat your fruit and vegetable first, and it's gone within a second. And so I agree, that would be ideal. That's what they should do. Eat your fruit and vegetable, or eat what's on your plate first and then go get a second, but that's not happening.
Well, we still have half a year left.
And there, I can find the numbers because it's astronomical right now. It really is. I'll pull them up.
I echo Sarah's concern. I think in the past we've tried to push the unlimited vegetables and fruit with the salad bar, and we've moved away from that. and now moving to the unhealthiest part of the meal, which is just the main piece, which could be chicken nuggets or whatever. And so there's no longer an emphasis on eating as much of the fruit and vegetables as students like.
So we're up to almost $5,000.
Already.
Yes.
So could we do, is it easy to do like a little quick survey amongst the kids? Like, what do you wish was on the salad bar? And then maybe try for a month of not doing the second meals and just saying, you know, we're not doing second meals this month.
Right.
We're trying something new. You can help yourself to the salad bar as much as you want and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
we didn't have that option before. So even if they eat their entree and they're still hungry, they should be able to, you know, now you've got the salad bar there, you can go help yourself to the vegetable salad bar.
And I think that's great. I'm just looking at, and I can forward this information to you, but I mean, I have like little kids, a lot of little kids getting second
Okay.
meals.
Then why don't, it's up to the board, but I think,
Like come January to say we're no longer doing second meals, but you may
Right.
go back to the salad bar.
That's what I'm saying.
right,
Yes.
if you're still hungry, you can go back to the salad bar.
And that's what they can do already, right, Louis? That's what they've always been able to do.
Correct. It's unlimited trips to the salad
Okay.
bar and fruit.
Okay.
But maybe between now and then, just kind of get an idea of, you know, maybe the salad bar isn't meeting their needs, and then we can use some of that money that we've been using for the second meals during January to add an extra item or something.
Yeah, and when we met with with Kim, she had said that she would put out a survey to the kids, and I haven't seen that. So I think
I think that would be really helpful, because if
Okay.
if the kids are able to say, oh yeah, I really like peaches, and peaches isn't served very often, knowing that, you know, they can have it there.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an excellent idea. I mean, when we started this, all there were apples or oranges. There was no really salad bar.
Right, that just came out, and then it was kind of pushed. It wasn't in a great location, and there's some new things in the kitchen now, so that's pushed out, so it's more accessible.
Okay.
So just so I'm clear, I will ask to have a survey done for the students, and we'll start. Eric and I will let kids know now that, you know, come January,
When you come
no
back
more
from Christmas vacation.
Perfect.
Yeah.
No more free second lunches, but you can help yourself to.
Can I
fruits
get
and
a
veg.
consensus on that? I think now that the salad bar's there, I really don't think we need the second meal, free second meal, because they have an option. They can make as many trips to salad bar to fill themselves up. Russ, what do you think about that?
Sure. I mean, my honest opinion is those that need free lunch should get free lunch. Those that can pay should pay. If parents don't pay, then they need to prepay. But I'm willing to go along with, you know, unlimited fruit and salad bar. But my honest opinion is if you can't pay, you get free lunch. If you can pay, you pay.
Billy?
Yeah, I agree with the salad bar.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely think, I just didn't know, I mean, what's our total for the year historically?
Well, if
that
we're
in
right
the
now,
red?
well, going into the red, I forget what it was. Louis, what did we wash from this year from the debt that we had before COVID, before
It
the
was
free?
approximately, I believe, $2,200. Those were the unpaid student balances. I mean, our food service account is actually, it's in the black. Historically, it's been in the red for the SU as a total.
Even if
But
we
the last 2 years, it's
even
been
if
in the
we
black
reduce
due
it
to the new
5,000.
programs that we're in.
Okay. Okay.
And,
Dana?
and the other thing too is if there's something with protein or something like chickpeas or, you know, something that kids, whatever they mention, cottage cheese, some kids like that. I don't know, like something that kids will eat that is a little bit more filling than just carrots and celery.
Yes.
Quite a bit of a variety on the salad bar. I'm in there 2 days a week, and it's usually like a pasta salad along with fruit and veggies and
Yep.
regular salad, like lettuce.
I haven't seen the salad bar forever.
So, yeah.
Right.
Oh,
I
no,
have no
so
idea
in
what
there,
it's
and there's,
Yeah.
you know, quite a few options for the kiddos. to
What I
choose from.
what I think I'd suggest, Louis, is I don't think we're going to need 9,000 for next year. Perhaps put that in half so that if we have to supplement what's on the salad bar, we can, and it might help offset if we run into the red. And we'll
Okay, so
do,
do you want me- so we have 15 in that line right now. I can lower it to 11 or 10.
I think
Yep.
that's good. I wouldn't
10
go
is
too
good, yep.
crazy, yeah.
yep.
'Cause
And then
we're
you've
also
got
gonna,
it, as of January, there's no more second.
and we're gonna see how that goes, and
Right.
then revisit it in February.
Okay.
And I know, and I've said this for years myself, I know fruit's expensive this time of year, but we gotta have something more than apples.
Yes, I have given this
No.
feedback.
Majority of the school
They don't have
kids
their
are
teeth.
losing their teeth.
I know.
They cannot, no, it's true.
It's true. I've given this feedback more than once, Jeff. I said they don't have teeth to eat this.
It'd be cheaper to buy them all toothbrushes and toothpaste and,
Like,
but we're getting off track.
yes.
So that's okay,
I
Louis,
have
go
said that.
ahead.
It's true.
Yep. What else would you like to talk about?
That's all I have for budget for right now.
So do we wanna talk about putting in the money for that ceiling on the second floor?
Okay. I have no qualms with putting 10,000 back into the maintenance budget for the strapping and the insulation. Tina?
I agree.
Can it be done this year? This year?
No.
No?
Yeah, I don't think.
We don't have excess right
It could
now.
be done over the summer.
Right. We just don't have the excess money in the budget. I don't believe we're running a surplus. Isn't our budget pretty?
Information at this time.
Okay, I think it's pretty slim, but, you know, if we can perhaps, I'm sorry, if we can perhaps do it this year, we will, but I think put the 10 back in to the maintenance. It's not a big deal on the size of budget we have. Billy?
Yeah, I agree with it, of putting that back in with the maintenance budget.
Russ?
Should be done.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Okay. So if you want to go ahead and put the 10 back into the maintenance budget, Louis?
Okay.
Anything else, Tina?
Are we discussing any more of the items?
We
to
can
consider?
discuss the things to consider. Okay, we had already, I think, discussed putting 25,000 in for enrichment trips. That's brand new. We haven't discussed it. I'm not in favor of adding it to the budget. We've always, you know, we need the fundraisers, whatever. I am not in favor of adding it in. We can discuss it if you want.
I feel like, the general ed para would be more important or higher priority to me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Sarah, sell us on the general ed para for kindergarten.
I would love to have one right now. I would love to have two, but I was being frugal and put one in there. We just have kids coming that are lacking life skills, aren't potty trained, need help with zipping jackets, going to the bathroom, and when you have one adult with 19 5-year-olds, I would love anybody to come in and try to get all of them ready for recess as one person. It is a challenge. And it's a great problem. We have lots of kids, which is good, but it's a lot to do, especially those little kids with life skills that just need help opening things, zipping things, going to the bathroom, wiping bottoms, etc.
Before you get any more graphic,
That's what we do.
I know, but, no, I agree, especially because you know this year is driving me crazy. We have too many per class for kindergarten. And I've never liked anything over 15, and you know that, especially with, unfortunately, the way things go. If you're a teacher, you have 15 students, never mind 19 like we have this year, and you have one that acts up all the time. The other 18 students are kind of in limbo while the teacher is dealing with whatever's going on with one. If we don't make them love learning by the second grade, we're going to lose those students. So I think it's a great idea regardless of how many we're gonna have coming in
Okay.
next year.
So I don't have that number yet.
Right, so that if it's another larger group or whatever, we have it, and then if it's a manageable size kindergarten coming in, then first grade might, because those kindergartners are moving on, might need a para. So that's my personal opinion. Jeff?
Yeah, I'm total agreement because it's, again, the skills that the kids gotta have and the learning, we need to nurture them at this point and wanna learn, so we need that extra help there to do that.
Billy?
I'm completely on board with it. I think it's really important, not just for the classroom teacher, but for the kids too, to have consistent people that they feel safe and secure with, helping them with everything. You know, it's important. I'm on board.
Ross?
I agree, absolutely.
Tina?
I agree, but I also had a question.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll direct this to Sarah and Eric because you are at the school all the time. If you had a kid in that kindergarten class this year, do you think that you would need somebody this year? Like waiting till next year, how will that affect the kids in the class this year? Only having one teacher with 19 kindergartners that really need that extra help.
I can say that we have people going down there all the time to help out. Anyone who's free gets sent down there. They're glad to go. It's fun. It's amazing. It's an amazing experience to go down there and help out, but there's a lot. So 19 kids is a lot of kids. And these are kids who some of them have not been in school before. So you really have a pre-K, K going on at the same time sometimes. We need somebody down there now.
What's the other class got for numbers?
20.
Because somebody was telling me that the 19 was very, very large and the other one wasn't as many, and so
19 and 20.
19 and 20, okay.
Would you second that?
Oh, yes, I would.
So my opinion is that if it's broken, we need to fix it.
Right.
And I think we should hire someone now. I know that it's not easy, but I feel like we should find it in the budget. It's something that we should discuss.
If we could find even a substitute for the second half of the year, does it have to be is it a professional, licensed person we need, or do we need a sub to come in every day and assist?
Or a para, right?
Right.
Yeah, a para-educator. I mean, that would be a gift, honestly. That would be.
I mean, if my kid were in that class, I know I would want one.
Well, yeah, we've had smaller classes that
Yeah.
people have been roaring about.
It made such a difference. My son was in a large kindergarten class of 22.
Right.
And then it was divided into 3 classes, first through 4th grade, and night and day difference between kindergarten and first. I just feel like if my kid were in that class, I would want someone right now. And I think we should.
Louis,
try
what
to
are we
fix that.
looking at for a cost for half a year, para?
You'd be looking at approximately 20,000.
Jeff? That would be this year.
This year?
That would be for approximately what's left of this year, yeah.
Right, the second half.
Yeah, we can get somebody.
Russ?
I guess if we can pull it off, if we can make it happen, it seems to me like if we're gonna go 20 there, we gotta find 20 somewhere else.
Yeah, we'll just make Louis.
So, I mean, it
Magic.
seems to me like we're just moving the P around under the cup, but if we feel that takes precedent over something else, then maybe the 20 grand is gonna be easy to find.
Right. Oh, definitely. You're not gonna get any argument out of me. Hopefully, when we get a closer look at this year's budget and how we're running, hopefully, it won't be too big a problem to come up with it. But, okay. Billy?
Thank you, Tina. Yes, it's a yes from me.
Okay. So we're gonna, this year, not the proposed budget, this year's budget, we're gonna go ahead and give permission for the administrators to try to find a sub a para for the second half of the year to assist the kindergarten classes. And I'm gonna say classes plural because
Would
move back and
share
forth.
both.
Yeah,
I just don't know where this is gonna cut. Thank you.
you're welcome. We'll worry about that later. Lewis is probably ready to kill me, you realize that.
More me too. I don't know.
One of these days I'll be sick and I won't be at the meeting, Lewis, and then we won't bother you. Anything else? I really don't see where anything else in here should be added. I think the 2 positions this year and then next year, one next year, and then the busing, the 10 for the insurance. We're at a better place, at least now. We still don't know much. The legislature may only give us 10 million instead of 45, but I feel more comfortable that we've got the highlights and the important projects done and needs. Anything else on there that you're gonna fight really hard about?
Not tonight.
Okay. Anything on your items to consider that you are vehement that we need? Okay. Billy? Thank you. Russ?
No.
Yeah, work for me.
Okay. So there you go, Louis.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And did you, Louis, I'm sorry, did you say you needed an executive session at the end?
I don't specifically need one, only if you would like to discuss any personnel related to the budget.
I don't think we need to. Right? We've already got that set.
I was just curious, I didn't notice any change in salary from the first to
You're not
the.
gonna.
I'm not saying anything in general. From the ESP, any change from that discussion? So I didn't know if that should be talked about in executive session or if you had a reason that you didn't change anything.
We should discuss that in executive session.
Then
Okay.
then I would like to discuss it in executive session
Okay.
later.
Awesome.
Do we have any questions for Kelly? 'Cause I know
Oh, I'm
he's still
sorry,
at
Kelly.
school.
You're still on.
I forgot Kelly, sorry.
I don't think we have anything else for you. Oh, sorry to keep you hanging.
Oh, no worries.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we're done with questions for you tonight.
Have a good one.
Okay, you too. Louis, did we need to go over the announced tuition, or is it too early for us to set it?
Nope, that's also in the packet, that's the next item on the agenda, I believe. So each year we have to set an announced tuition rate. We need to set both an elementary and a secondary tuition rate for your secondary would be your 7th and 8th graders. So in the packet was a sheet with the current, announced tuition rate for FY22 for some of the area schools. And it's both, same thing for the secondary. So my recommendation is we keep our elementary rate flat at 15,000. And we increase our secondary from 15,000 to 16,500.
Now, are these recommended amounts in our budget already?
They are not, well, they are. We have one student currently attending Rutland Town that's a tuition student, and it's at the 15,000, which is the current rate.
Okay,
I'm not sure if that student, though, off the top, I don't have it in my notes whether they're a secondary or an elementary student.
okay. That's really no big deal. Okay. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the tuition recommendations.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Okay, you're all set
Thank
there,
you.
Louis. Do you have anything else besides executive session?
No, not at this time.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, director's orders, you got the warrants in your emails. I approved, I had no questions on any of them. Do I have a motion to approve the director's orders?
Make a motion to approve the director's orders?
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. The approval of the minutes from November 8th. If these minutes get any longer,
Tell me about it.
talk about verbatim, geez, I'm crow. Does anyone have any additions, deletions, changes?
I make a motion to approve them.
Thank you. Motion made by Tina to approve. I'll leave it for just a couple seconds in case anyone has any changes.
There's just one typo about betcha. She forgot the T.
Oh.
It's not a big deal.
No. Okay, calling it. Everybody in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody
I'm
opposed?
abstaining from that one, seeing as how I wasn't entered.
Yeah, that's kind of hard. Hope you had fun. Okay, that's been approved. One abstention. Chris, you're awful quiet.
Yeah, so you guys do a lot of talking, so I just don't want to interrupt you guys. So I'll be brief. I know this is an interesting time of the year where a lot of our discussions are around budget and starting to prep for town meeting, and you know things do move rather quickly. So, but there are a couple items in here. I think particularly around test to stay. As we know, we have begun the test day program in Rutland Town. It has enabled some students to get back into the building, which is, I think, with some of the biggest headaches for us initially early in the fall around quarantining and having students who are close contacted stay home at least for 7 days. The test to stay has provided some more flexibility for those students to return and a little less disruption to their education. I think that the teachers are a little more appreciative of that. I know the families are more appreciative of this. I do want to, say thank you to Sarah, to Eric, to Lisa Lonis, as well as front office for all their hard work. They do a lot in the morning scrambling to get that running, but it is a nice service. We don't know how long it's going to run. I say that because, we don't know what the second half of the year is going to look like, and from the state, but we also know that this is also largely dependent upon a supply chain. The fact that we just learned that a lot of our Binex now are expire December 23rd or January 7th, so we'll look to see what that looks like after the break. But hopefully we do anticipate having antigen test kits ready to go when we return from winter break if needed. Hopefully, but we won't. But if needed, we will. So. That's really about it. I know that surveillance testing is kind of taking a back seat. We really have been putting a lot of emphasis on test to stay. It is our primary importance because we see that it has the most impact on our communities. There will be some information coming out on surveillance testing, which will be more in terms of a take-home PCR kit, which we are receiving a good amount of them. I think I have close to 600 in my office right now. I think I have more medical supplies in my office than educational things.
That's sad. That's sad.
But just the state of the world we're living in. But more information will be coming out in the next couple weeks. But that'll be something where, if a staff member, a student, need to do a PCR, we could just give them this little box that has a take-home kit, and they could just do it in the comfort of their own home, and then send it off, and the result will go back to them, and then we would not see the result, but then it would be largely dependent upon the individual then to report to us if there was a positive case. But that's kind of where we're looking to shift right now. So there has been some discussion about concerns about what's going to happen on January 18th with the, that's when the mask mandates. As of right now, we have not heard anything if it's going to be extended or not. I think we'll probably, I'm sure, Secretary French and Dr. Levine and other members of the state are waiting to kind of see what happens around the holiday period. Around there, but I do know if that would not be extended, it would go back to the 80%, and I know that we don't really have hard facts. I know we've collected some sheets, but I know Rutland Town School has had a good amount of individuals who've made the decision to be vaccinated but we're not near 80%. So, but that's something which we'll have more information kind of as we move forward with that.
Okay.
So, the last piece I just want to talk about is the design team around the Portrait of Graduate. We did have our first meeting on December 7th. It was held virtually, just given the kind of the climates that we're in, and thought to be best. I know we have some individuals here, both in the audience as well as around the board that were in attendance. It was a nice kickoff. Kind of laying out the groundwork, kind of where we're going, what we want to do around the competencies. There really kind of began the discussion around 4 shifts around the workforce, with pace of change, human interaction, and then global. And so, kind of take a look at, and I think as talking with Sarah and some other, some parents, they felt that Rutland Town School right now is in a good position, considering some of the discussions we had about shifts, where we're going, what we're going to add about preparation for our students, but also had some good discussions about also where we can, continue to improve and look at. So it was a nice evening with individuals from all of our GRCSU communities. Our next meeting will be held on January 18th, which is one of the potential conflicts with the select board. But it was a nice night. So I think if there anybody interested who still wants to be a part of that, feel free to reach out to myself, to Sarah and Eric, and we can look at having be a part of that discussion. There will be, and if you can't make it to meetings, I know there are a variety of conflicts. We are looking at, I have a meeting next Friday with the Percentile for Kids group about outreach, about how we can just simple like one question responses. Like I think one of the questions that the team members are asked, like, what are your hopes, dreams, aspirations for GRCSU students? Really felt that would be something that we could ask the students themselves, as well as asking just out to a parent. So just to collect more feedback, because I think it'd be good to see that individuals that could not make it to the meeting, that just to still gather their input. So there will be outreach along those lines as well. So, and like I said, the rest of it really is just for information purposes in here. So,
Okay. Anyone have any questions for Chris? Hearing none. Sarah?
So we had a very well-attended parent-teacher conference. I shared this with some other people, and they were just blown away. We had 98% of our parents come for both parent-teacher and student-led. And then those students that weren't able to come for student-led conferences, they're making up that time either with their TA teacher or through Miss Daly, our guidance counselor.
Okay.
The jazz band performance was at the Rutland Town senior event. I believe, Jeff, you were there? Yeah.
Yeah, there was, we have a stage there at the church, and seniors enjoyed it immensely, and they sounded wonderful.
Yeah, and so I think everybody was excited. It's been a while since they've performed, and Mr. Audette's working on building his music program back up. And I was nervous. I got an email from Jim Hall. I was like, oh, is he going to cancel it? What is he going to do? But he sent a follow-up email just thanking all the kids and Mr. Audette, and they did a great job. So we're hoping to have the seniors come. We used to have the senior luncheon in the spring, so we'll see how that pans out. I just mentioned a little bit about the Lexia and Core 5. Our readers are, again, we like competition, and they're doing a great job. Teachers are encouraging them to, sixth grade, shout out. And third grade too. Super proud of our kids. They're working really hard. SBAC interims, as I mentioned before, those will start after break. There was a Lexia professional development that happened last Wednesday during our Wednesday time for both elementary and middle school students. It's that time of the year our middle school students are working on their service learning project. They typically would go downtown and do some shopping for some families in need, but they do that online now. Mrs. Dendo, she has some therapy dogs. She's been in the building, and we've had some middle school students asking for when they can join some reading time with some of her dogs, which is great. Katie McDougall has been working really hard on getting some grants, so I listed some of the things there.
Awesome.
Some really cool things. And then our pre-K program received a huge grant through the American Rescue Plan Act, so a huge shout out to Sean Dubois as well as Sabrin Spenceley. So you can see the amounts that are in there, but close to $20,000.
That's awesome.
So one of the things I know Kelly, I asked him to sign off, but one of the things that they're thinking about doing is replacing the door that's down by preschool. There's the key to lock it and unlock it, but to get a swipe card, because those are pretty expensive. And then some building matters. We are still looking for a custodian. Anybody out there is interested in being a custodian at our school, please don't hesitate to call me anytime. We have posted at the Rutland Herald, it's on Indeed, it's on School
everything.
Spring.
Yep.
We really need a custodian. Our teachers and staff have been amazing, helping just to make sure chairs are put up, helping with trash and recycling. We're all chipping in, vacuuming, doing stuff as we can. Kelly has been working pretty much every weekend, except for this one weekend. So again, anybody out there is interested in being a custodian, please contact me. The ice rink, we were hoping to get started at the end of next week, this week, and the weather didn't look so good.
Right.
Yeah. So we're looking towards next week, and Kelly is working with, who's our fire chief?
Chris Clark.
Chris Clark, thank you. So thanks to Chris Clark and his crew, they're gonna come out and help fill that, weather depending. Solar update, that's listed there. The gym floor will be refinished over December break, as well as the gym entry refinishing. And then we have fourth grade field trip to Spartan Arenas this Friday. Got my skates ready.
Mm-hmm.
And then early dismissal next Wednesday, and then we'll be on December break.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Sarah? Eric, got anything?
It's been a tough year, but we're doing it. I mean, people are coming together, going back to the test to stay. When that happens, everything changes. Kids get early, kids get dropped off a little bit early. Teachers are in their classrooms early helping those kids out. Whenever we need help, someone's always there. Just during the daytime, getting kids from point A to point B, the little ones especially, they're navigating really, really well, but still there's stragglers. Teachers jump in, help out. It's moving forward. So everyone's staying positive, and it's been an awesome school year.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, the test to stay, the first round we did close to 50 kids
Wow.
for the first week, and it was, 4:30 in the
That's
morning
awesome, though.
is when the alarm clock's going off to get to school and get up, and it's all hands on deck, and everybody's been great. Lisa Madison came to help, and she was like, you don't need me here, because everybody just came out to help, whatever we can do, and we were just so happy that all these kids got to go to school.
Oh, that is awesome.
It's
Yep.
like it was no interruption. So we said it is worth it. Absolutely worth it. It's a lot of work though. It's a lot of work.
Well, hopefully with these kids getting vaccinated, there'll be less kids having to do that, so
Right.
less early time.
Mhm.
Hopefully.
Yeah, we're hoping. And there's been a lot of kids signed out for vaccinations. A lot of kids. Like one day, Pam we had 26 kids getting signed out for vaccines and coming back.
Good.
So that's a good sign. Mm-hmm.
That it?
Can I just give a reminder to the lost and found?
Oh, you don't like that huge pile on that table?
Please put your names in kids' clothing, especially hats and mittens and boots. Please put, because I will donate that stuff to donate before the holiday break, and I don't want to donate if it's, and I look and I'm pretty good at matching. I'll know which kid wears which coat, but it really helps if there's a name. I've had one child who's purposely lost her coat because she doesn't like it. I found out 3 times.
3 times she's lost
3
it?
times, and then her
Great.
brother
Turning
told.
up.
It's not stuff. She doesn't like that coat. She wants a new one for Christmas, so she keeps trying to lose it. So
Oh,
please,
that sounds like one of mine would do something like that.
please just make sure kids are coming with an extra mask for recess, because we are going through a lot of masks. Kids are actually getting dropped off without masks, so we're having to supply masks, and we're running low. So extra masks, hats, mittens, gloves, snow clothes. Make sure names are on them. That's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, moving on. Contract negotiations. I don't have my sheet in front of me. We have to look at the professional staff. We have Sierra Maxwell. And this assignment, okay, she's the one that's going from one to another. Okay,
He's doing first grade first,
okay, great.
third grade second.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions on the first? Okay, going to the second, support staff. I'm gonna mess it.
Michaela.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Michaela DeRozier Rosenzweig.
Yeah, does anybody have any problems with the pre-K para?
Yay.
Yes.
Former student.
Yay. Okay, hearing none, if I could have a motion. The extracurricular at the bottom was added by accident. If I have a motion for the two, please?
Make a motion.
Thank you, Tina. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Now, I'm not sure resignations, because if they quit before they actually started,
So we felt since the board approved it, we should also have the board just approve their resignation, so just avoid any confusion if we went to staff this
okay.
later on.
Okay, we had two resignations, Samantha Ferguson, building substitute, and Allison Patterson, who is a custodian. Both have left, and both left before they actually started. If I could have a motion to approve those, well, whatever.
I'll make a motion to approve those resignations.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, thank you. I have nothing. We have budget. Policies. These, I believe, yep, they're all second reads.
Transportation's gonna be pulled, because that has to go before the policy committee meeting.
Oh.
It'll come
That's
back
what I
next
thought
month.
when
Yeah.
I was looking, yeah.
So,
Okay, so we have 3 to approve tonight. The transportation is going to be set aside, and we'll come back probably in January, if you meet,
Yes,
if
ideally,
not
right.
February at the most, okay. The first one is board commitment to non-discrimination. No one has brought any issues forward about this policy. If I could just, unless somebody has some tonight, if I could have a motion to approve that policy before.
I make a motion to approve the policy.
Thank you, Tina. Any discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Second one is C2. It's the public participation at board meetings. I don't believe we've heard any complaints or suggestions of changes on that. This is the second reading. If no one has any questions on it, if I could have a motion to approve that.
I just had a question. I had mentioned last time that when this originally came out, they had mentioned that if there are many speakers speaking the same thing,
Right.
is that necessary to put in here, or
that's a procedure.
that's a procedure? Is that
Right.
what?
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. I couldn't remember what you had said last time, if it was going to be added or that it's just how it's done and that's fine. It doesn't
Right.
have to be part of the policy.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
So if I could have a motion for approving the public participation.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Jeff.
For public participation.
Hearing no questions, all in favor?
Aye.
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 F11, limited English proficiency students. Very short and sweet.
I make a motion to approve.
Thank you. If anybody has any changes, questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. And like I said, transportation will come back. Old business? Anyone have any old business?
I have a question I was just thinking of. I meant to mention it earlier. Last Monday, I was dropping my kid off, and Casella was there to pick up the trash in the middle of car drop-off.
Really?
And I'm like, is that really necessary?
Yeah.
Because he was parked in the
No.
gym parking lot, and he was like, come on, you can keep going, but he has to cross the line in order to get the trash. I'm like, can he just not come until after 8:15 or come before 7:55 or something like that?
Okay, admin has so noted.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd be a little surprised at that too. Okay, I'll do
When was that?
It wasn't this past Monday, it was the Monday
The Monday
before.
before.
Yeah.
questions from the audience.
I have one.
That surprises me.
Yeah, I know, shocked, right? GRCSU budget, I didn't ask this before. I'm just curious to know how much of our budget is part of that budget. And it's probably a question you can't answer now, but I would like to know, as a taxpayer, how much of that budget is impacted onto our budget.
It goes by, I believe, student count. And it didn't really go up, did it?
I'm not sure. Louis, are you still on?
Yes.
Did
So
you,
there's two pieces of the SU budget that are in the Rutland Town budget. There's the special ed assessment and regular ed assessment. The total is $1.1 million. So the exact number is $1,113,178. And that is about 12% of the Rutland Town budget.
So, Louis, as a follow-up, when you say special education assessment and general education assessment, I think are the two terms that you use. What is entailed in that? Is that like the is that the instructional staff or the special educators that are instructional staff? And then is general education like the staff people that actually work here at central office, or where, what does that entail?
So there's two pieces as are the general fund, which would be central office. So that would be the business office, the superintendent, assistant superintendent, technology, and the rent for central office. And then special ed would be the full special ed budget. So that's all the special educators, all the paras, all of the tuition that for our secondary students this is the SU, it's the SU budget, so it's elementary, secondary, any students that are being sent out of district. It's transportation, it's special ed preschool, it's everything that's special, it's all encompassing, everything that's special ed related.
Okay, and then my follow-up, I promise it should be my last question, is we obviously don't vote on the GRCSU budget, the SU budget we don't vote on. We vote as a taxpayer on the Rutland Town School budget. So I'm curious to know where the checks and balances are on that. So how does a taxpayer have any to vote on that budget? I mean,
On GRCSU's budget?
yes.
You don't. You vote on it by voting for each town. Now, the GRCSU board is the one that puts that budget together, okay? So you've got 3 members from this school board on that committee. So, and then in general, that is such a, like you said, 12% of our budget is a very minor amount. But actually, because they're smaller, they're probably looked at closer.
Okay.
So you can get a copy of the budget. Have we approved that budget?
Yeah, I think that was.
Okay. So you can, contact GRCSU.
Okay.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, we try to, because when we go to do ours, we have to have theirs because it goes into it.
And the concern, I guess, I would have to say is that when we're talking about having to not necessarily cut in our Rutland Town budget, but because of the amounts, and then to hear increases of people on the SU, the GRCSU side in the offices or whatever, that's concerning because our school budget, when we're talking about,
Right.
library.
We look at that,
guidance,
believe me, we look at that very, very closely. There are 7 towns, and none of them want anything to go up.
Good.
So it's looked at drastically. And what happens is, if our budget goes up, which this time it did because of our IEP count, okay, it's broken up as close as we can. But there is absolutely nothing frivolous in that budget. And I don't think they got any new employees. So if it's a special education employee, may not be ours, may be out of one of the other schools. So it's really hard to break down and look at.
Perfect, but the percentage was great. Thank you, Louis. That was helpful to me.
You're welcome. And the GRCSU budget is on our website. It's
Oh,
on the
okay.
GRCSU website. If you go to, let's see here, I just found it. If you go to About and then Budget Information, and it will bring you to the FY23 approved GRCSU budget. And then closer to town meeting, you'll find more information for each of the local budgets on there as well.
Thank you.
Okay, our next, yep.
Are the policies available to the public?
Oh, yeah. They're on the websites also. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Next meeting will be January 11th. Do I have a motion to change the regular meeting from the 10th to the 11th?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Tina.
And will that be in the library then?
Yes. Yep. So our meeting will be on January 11th at 6 PM in the library. Is that okay?
We'll be in the library and then we'll be in the cafeteria afterwards.
Afterwards,
Yep,
correct.
business as usual, got it.
Okay. So we'll have our regular meeting before our pre-town meeting on January 11th, starting at 6 PM. Any questions or comments? All in favor of changing the date of our regular meeting, say aye.
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 And I know there's no one left, so nobody's opposed. Okay, next we're going into executive session for personnel. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Any discussion? Hearing none, executive session will be at 19:56.